Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Gainesville meeting at the Cade Museum. If you're watching on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. Please remember to silence your cell phones at this time and help me welcome to the podium John Gregory for our song and pledge.
We are going to sing a cappella. Gordon's not here, okay? So, God bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Say the pledge with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Thank you, John. And next, with our invocation, Deborah Newell.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Lori is out and about with his wife, and I appreciate this opportunity. Let's pray. O loving and gracious Creator, we join together as a body of servants working to better the lives of those less fortunate in our community, country, and world. We acknowledge that you give guidance and resources for us to well steward with integrity and in truth. We ask that you provide protection for the parents and children who are out and about this evening, that they would return to their homes safely and that without harm in any way. We ask that you multiply our capacity to accomplish more than we can dream or imagine in our own efforts, but possible through you and in Rotary. We have gratitude for the opportunity to grow in understanding of other cultures, life situations, and talents. And may we always give credit and honor to you, our Creator and Lord, in whose mighty name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Deborah. You may be seated. At this time, would visiting Rotarians and guests please remain standing to be introduced? A microphone will be brought around.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm Richard Allen, and it's my pleasure today to introduce Philip Crutchfield. Philip was 13 years with the school board and is now a financial advisor with Raymond James. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. I have brought my husband with us today.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I have James Skiles with me today, and we're going to have an today.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm Ryan Thompson. With me is a very familiar face to many of us, Karen Sandlin. She is back from some personal things and would love to join our club again. She's now retired, but is ready to get her hands dirty and join our club. So say thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm Dominic Scorpio. I have been on sabbatical for a while, so I'm exceptionally glad to be back today after being gone for some time, but I brought Jessica McLaren, my controller, with me to join us for lunch as well.
Good afternoon and happy Halloween, fellow Rotarians. I'm Amber Miller with United Way, and I've brought several of my awesome team members with me today. I've got Dana Clayton, who's our Director of Advancement, Miranda Morissette, who is our Marketing and Communications intern, and then I have Maddie Fleming, who has been on the team for a while as our COC Program Coordinator, but has recently accepted a promotion and is going to be our new Director of Community Impact.
Okay, so now with announcements, you'll notice on your table, I believe there's a flyer for the Bloodmobile, and you probably saw that as you pulled into the parking lot. I was able to donate before the meeting, and I found out that they had these lovely t-shirts I wanted to share with you. If you could make time after the meeting to give blood, we're doing this in memory of Perry McGriff, who started the blood drive through Rotary many, many years ago. So they have, and it depends on the various sizes, but they do have some t-shirts with supporting breast cancer for this month. And then today for Halloween, they also have I carved out time to give blood. So if you could make time, please stop by the Bloodmobile on your way out. And next announcement, please welcome TJ Pache.
All right, everybody. Tomorrow evening at 6:30, we're going to be doing a fun and fellowship at Beaker and Flask. I have it on good authority that Shrek himself may be coming to visit with us. So we're very excited about that. That's 6:30 tomorrow, Beaker and Flask. We're going to be doing a curated tasting of 4 wines. It's $13 you can pay there, but if you're able to come, we look forward to seeing you, and I'm sure Shrek does as well. Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. Next up, Bob Mounts.
Hello, Rotarians. I'm Robert Mounts, trying to scare up a few more nominations for the Ethics in Business Award, which you've heard a lot about in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I don't need to go through all those talking points again, but I will ask you a couple of questions. Who was last year's winner? Anybody know? Alan Hitchcock? Koss Olinger? Who was the first winner that was already mentioned once today, and who was my sponsor in Rotary? Perry McGriff. That's right. Well, you know, what is Friday? The deadline for submitting an application. We're trying to scare up a couple more because right now we only have 1 in the bank, maybe 2 coming, but it's very important to get that in, get it done. It's not the same thing as the Service and Self Award, you know that, but it is a very prestigious award. We've had a long history since about 2011, and one of our winners here, right here, Hawes Adams, and Ed Ellett. You know, those are the kind of caliber of people that we honor. And by the way, who screens them? Do you know who that is? Warrenton School of Business, the ambassadors. Who makes the decision? The Ethics and Business Award Committee. Would you stand if you're here? There. I know you're back there. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. And now we have a visiting Rotarian with announcement, Jim Skiles.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I've made notes here so I stick with my announcements and don't sway too far. But I'm here to invite y'all to participate in our 11th annual Wine to Water West Skiles Water Stewardship Awards next Wednesday, November 8th, right at this location. And for you to be part of an amazing journey that involves Jacob. And many of y'all know Jacob's story, how he had to run for his life, how he found a family in Michigan that raised him. He earned his PhD here at the University of Florida and founded the Southern Sudan Healthcare Organization. What's that got to do with our event next week? Well, last year we announced that Southern Sudan Healthcare was going to be our partner in applying for a Global WASH grant. And that process continues this year. That is our main focus and what the funds are being designated for. And I want you to be part of hearing the vision we now have for his clinics. Our keynote speaker was in Africa 3 weeks ago, and she's coming to share what her assessments were and what we're going to be doing. And your club is famous for your Sustainable Cambodia event or grant and the work that Richard and your club is doing. And we can never duplicate that, but we're learning from your experience. We ask that you help us partner with Jacob and raise this money. I want to thank Jay Norquist for being one of our sponsors this year. And y'all have always been great about supporting our event and attending. And I'll be selling tickets afterwards. They're $50 a person. And if you'll look, we have Wes's original photo from Ishitani Springs that will be also raffling off for $10. So I look forward to seeing you next week here at the Cade. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And now for a very quick announcement, Dwight McKee.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to remind you about Seafood Spectacular, December 7th at 5:30 out at Hatchet Creek. Tickets are $60, 5 for $250. Great fellowship for all us Rotarians and your family and friends. We're going to have a lot of great seafood dishes out there, 500 pounds of crab claws, just going to have a lot of fun. We got music with Jeff's band. So see Wes over here at the ticket counter to get your tickets. We'll be selling them throughout the month. And we're going to have 2 cleanup dates out at Hatchet Creek. So we're always looking for volunteers. It'll be November 18th, Saturday morning, and then December 2nd, Saturday morning. So I'll be reminding you again. So thank you, everybody. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Dwight. And now, in honor of Halloween, a special treat by John Gregory.
This poem is called The Body of Halloween. What'd I do? Skeletons a dance they will myth, even the ones who are cis. They know how to dance and kick up and prance, but they have no body to dance with. At haunted houses, the phone bill's the most. The rate's not high, there they'd post. We hadn't a clue, but the goblins there knew, because they continued calling ghost to ghost. We know his first name was Ralph. Frankenstein, his last name, that old elf. What's the name that would fit for his home surgery kit? Somebody yelled, suit yourself. So this year, as witches dance, we'll watch as the Gators enhance the offensive action and defensive traction. Arkansas is not a ghost of a chance.
I told you you were in for a special treat. And now, please welcome to the podium, Susan Maston.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susan Maston. Today, I have 2 messages. The first one is this. On December 5th, the day of Rotary's auction for Sustainable Cambodia, think about bringing someone with you to fill up the room. Would be fantastic. And here is the second message. In our lives, we may not know the inspiration we bring to others by sharing a story. Sometimes the seed of an idea is planted long before it emerges. Months ago, after Richard and Elena's travelogue about our trip to Cambodia, Jeff Montgomery came up to ask me this: why Cambodia? So today is my story of my Irish father, Thomas Maston, who planted a seed that became my place in Sustainable Cambodia. was a great storyteller. Hi, I'm Susan Maston. I want to share a story with you about my father, who was a great storyteller. And I really believe that the reason that we were close friends our entire lives is because we sat down together and shared so many stories about what we were thinking, what it was important to us. And it was midnight hour at the kitchen table doing homework, listen to the stories of his life. My father loved to sing. We danced together in the living room to the big band sound. He loved his friends. He grabbed me one time after a celebration. He said, "You make sure anytime you have an opportunity to speak with others and share your ideas, do that. It's important that you do that." So I knew so much about his life as a young athlete. My father tried out with the New York Yankees when he was 17 years old with all the greats of that period. He was an earnest man. He showed me what it was to work hard, how to be responsible, and how to celebrate and really reach out and be close with people. When he told me stories of going to World War II and being in Calcutta, India, I had a sense of what it is, what life is on the other side of the world. And he also said that the United States did a great thing in wanting to help rebuild Europe and the rest of the world too after that period. And I learned about the Marshall Plan, and I always carry that as this way of doing the right thing, this honor. So as a young woman, I learned about the tragedy of the Vietnam period, and especially the Cambodian people. I saw the killing fields and I walked out and I felt completely changed. What can we do to do the right thing? We have this incredible world of people whose lives are upended and desperation. So in our lives, Richard and I had an opportunity to meet somebody in our neighborhood who was traveling the world, went to Cambodia, we followed his stories, and we jumped on that plane and said, we want to be part of this. And it's an amazing unfolding tale of what it is to carry that opportunity to help others, to honor them by listening to their stories, to celebrate who they are and their resilience. This story is all over the world and what we can do. And I encourage you to step up and do that in your own lives and share the stories of that on who you are and how we work together. I wish you well. Thank you for our time together. Pass this on. My love to you.
Thank you for sharing your story, Susan. And now, please help me welcome our president, Linda Reinhardt.
All right, we have so much going on. It's a busy time. I did want to remind everybody that the GOC open house is tomorrow, their fall festival. We were all invited by Brett to come see the new kitchen. That is from 11 to 4 tomorrow, so if you're able to stop by, I know he would appreciate that. I also want to recognize one of our club members who hasn't been here for a long time, but was able to make it, Dominic Scorpio. Dominic was one of the people that should have been recognized at our recent meeting for earning his first Paul Harris Fellow. So we're glad that he was able to make it. I'm hoping that I still have the pin and I have it. I'm hoping it's still in my car because my car is full of boxes. But Dominic, congratulations on getting your Paul Harris Fellow, and we will make sure to get you that pin. Okay, so I'm going to move right into our speaker. Today we are joined by Amber Miller, who is one of our club members, but she's going to be speaking to us today. Amber joined the United Way of North Central Florida in 2018 after spending the majority of her career in marketing, advertising, community relations, and graphic design. She accepted the position of president and CEO in 2021 after successfully leading the organization as interim through the COVID-19 pandemic. She firmly believes in helping others and thrives in solving problems through creative collaboration and solutions. When she's not working, Amber enjoys spending time with her husband, young sons, and 2 fur babies. So please welcome Amber.
So I am not used to being trapped behind a podium. I like to move, so I'm going to do my best to stay here. But today I wanted to talk to you about the Alice population. So our previous CEO and myself presented to all of you back in 2019 about this very special group of households in our community. And in April of 2023, a new updated report was released that contains some data from post-COVID. So if you want to go ahead and do the PowerPoint. All right, so we know that the COVID-19 pandemic claimed the lives of millions, and it unleashed a storm of competing economic forces, which was a phenomenon that was rarely seen. And among those that were in the eye of this storm was a population that the media, government officials, influencers, and many others refer to as the invisible, the forgotten. People who hide in plain sight, struggling daily to afford the basics. And we have a special name for those people, and that is ALICE. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. These are workers who are caring for our children. They are serving us at our favorite restaurant. They're bagging our groceries, changing the oil in our cars, selling us our favorite clothing. They're gas station attendants, among many other professions. And they are the engine that keeps our communities going. And we saw this so much in COVID when everything shut down and all anyone wanted to do was to go eat at their favorite restaurant. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna explore what this looks like. And I apologize, I did not think about my font choice, not transitioning in these. So throughout the pandemic, economic forces such as job disruption, inflation, wage increases, pandemic assistance, and migration worked both with and against each other. They negatively impacted household income, businesses and schools closed, or everyone went remote for months after the pandemic hit. And in the 2 years that followed, millions of workers lost their jobs, while millions more had their hours and wages reduced. Initially, the cost for many basics declined, but then as the pandemic continued, disruptions to the supply chain and higher wages to retain workers pushed prices up across the board. And at the same time, there were forces that benefited household income for many who were below the ALICE threshold, which means ALICE households and households in poverty, they combined. And as I mentioned, wages and salaries increased as business owners scrambled to retain their workers. In addition, there were various temporary pandemic supports that provided a much-needed cushion for these struggling households. The pandemic also sparked changes in household sizes and location. So to minimize expenses, many older children, they returned home to care for their parents. Some households added roommates, and for a variety of reasons, many households moved to warmer, less expensive, and/or less densely populated locations, like Florida. Welcome, New York. So caught in the cross currents here, as a result of all of these economic forces at play, at the same time, from 2019 through 2021, we actually saw here in Alachua County a 1% decrease in ALICE. Or actually, I misspoke, it was a 2% decrease in the total number of households below the ALICE threshold. So we went from 56,717 back in 2019 to 55,573. So that means that 51% of our households in Alachua County are unable to afford the basics. 51%. 19% of that is those households who are in poverty, so they meet the federal poverty guidelines, they have access to resources and supports, but the other 32% are on that fiscal cliff, and they do not qualify for assistance. So just to take a look, here is some of the towns here in Alachua County and the Alice population. So in Gainesville city limits, it's 59%. Hawthorne, 66. And you can see the rest as we move throughout Alachua County. We have demographics here of our households in hardship. And again, I'm sorry about the slides, but you know, Alice exists across all ages. It exists across all races, genders, ethnicities, geographics, but some groups are disproportionately Alice as a result of systemic barriers to education, to homeownership, healthcare, and financial wealth and savings. So what you see here is that our highest percent of households that are really struggling right now are Black households, are single parent, female-led households. And those households that are either under 25 years of age or over 65 years of age. So where you're seeing an increase in our seniors who are struggling to make ends meet, and I can't even begin to tell you the number of phone calls that we get and the wonderful people that have shown up in our office for assistance who are seniors and trying to afford all of these things on Social Security. So when we look at these demographics and struggling households in Alachua County, we can see the impact of the pandemic's competing economic forces that are played out differently across the demographic groups. And in many cases, the pandemic exposed and widened gaps in the rates of hardships. So like I said, the 25 and unders, the 65 and olders, they were the hardest hit. And then of course, those that have the lowest percent of hardship are Asian households, married households, so you've got dual income, and then those in the age ranges between 45 and 64. So let's talk about the 20 most common jobs here in Alachua County. Out of the 20 most common jobs, 85% of those still pay less than $20 per hour in 2021. So this is kind of what is contributing to these households that are struggling to make ends meet. If we look at these jobs, for example, 33% of those employed in the state of Florida are retail sales, and they make less than $20 an hour. They cannot afford the basic household needs to sustain their home. So again, looking, I know this chart's kind of tiny, but basically on the left, yes, your left, you have this tower here in the blue that shows you your basic needs. So your basic household needs, your household survival budget is what we call it, is rent, utilities, childcare, food, transportation, technology, because you have to have internet now to do anything. There's a little provision for miscellaneous expenses, your tax payments, and then it combines to come out for your monthly total. So when we look at this bar chart showing all of those items broken out, in the state of Florida, the survival budget is roughly $80,000. In Alachua County, it's $77,520. What you're gonna see is the chart to the right of the blue one, that is for a household with 2 workers. And that one is showing you that they're making less than the household survival budget. And then it also takes into account the pandemic relief that they were provided. So that middle column is showing you that they made close to what they needed to because of those pandemic supports. But then if you look at the column that is to the right of that one, that is taking some of those supports away. So what we're seeing is that despite all of this, our families are struggling to make ends meet. So if you have 2 full-time workers and 2 of Florida's most common jobs, so in Alachua County, if you're a retail salesperson, the median hourly wage for that was $13.46 an hour. And a cashier, which is another of the top 20, is $11.06 an hour. With their dual incomes combined, they're still short $5,731. So with this report, what we're seeing is that although some counties may have fared a little bit better than the prior report, we know that that's not the true story here. because those pandemic supports are gone. And so we are predicting that we are going to see an increase in the number of households that are in Alice. We're going to see an increase of the number of households in poverty, and that is going to funnel down into an increase of individuals who are experiencing homelessness for the very first time. So what we know from the research is that Alice is behind on rent. Inflation has contributed to that. We have our affordable housing crisis that I think every community is experiencing. We know that 0 to 40% AMI here in Alachua County, we are short 1,700 units. So if we have families that are on the brink of homelessness and we do not have supports in place to help prevent them from falling, if they lose that home, there is slim to none chance that they're going to find another place here to live that's any cheaper than what they're paying now. So again, rent is going up in Alachua County. The median rent is $1,082. Another sign of stress is that Alice is struggling to pay their bills. So I will tell you that over the last 3 months, we have received 702 requests for assistance with electric and water bills just in Alachua County. The other red flag that I have up here is food insecurity. That is elevated, especially with households with children. So again, going back to our 211 line, which is our resource referral, I have had 239 requests for food assistance in the last 3 months, just from Alachua County. And I also know that there has been an increase in requests for weekend backpacks through our partner agencies like Food for Kids. The other is that 34% of Florida's struggling households had emergency savings in 2021. So they have zero savings. So when something does happen, they are going to lose it all. But we have to remember that through the pandemic, it was Alice who helped us all stay afloat. They were the ones that went back to work at the grocery stores so that we could go and pick up our groceries while we worked from home remotely in our pajamas. Some of them delivered through Uber Eats or Instacart. And we need to work harder to support these families. And so I want to share a story with you that just happened last week. We were hosting a campaign breakfast for our friends over at Alachua County Public Schools. And so they sent representatives from the schools to our office. And our director of advancement was giving a wonderful presentation on Alice, and we had a young woman stand up and had to go outside. She came back in, composed herself, sat through the rest of the breakfast, and then we went in to talk to her after everyone had left. And she broke down. She's a mother, young mother. She has 3 children, one as young as 17 months old. She's got a kindergartner, and she also has a middle schooler. And remind you, she's an elementary school teacher herself. And unfortunately, they had a very unexpected crisis enter their lives where her spouse had to be removed from the home. And because of the actions, he lost his job. So here she finds herself on her own in this home, taking care of 3 beautiful children, and she has no other income coming in except for what she's making. And she cannot make ends meet. Her monthly mortgage is $1,200. Her utility bill was over $300. She had a phone bill that was almost $400. She had childcare that was $1,200 a month. She was getting up super early, taking her baby to the daycare, dropping her kindergartner off at school, running her other daughter to middle school, and was coming into work late every day. But luckily had a principal that was willing, that knew her issues and story and was willing to work with her and allow her to be late. She called the utilities to try to get some assistance. She tried to get her cell phone bill lowered, but they would not let her reduce her contract without making her break it and pay a couple $1,000s for that early cancellation because she had 4 lines on her account. And she's $300, roughly $300, $350 short every month on the income that she needs to stay afloat. And she made too much. So she didn't qualify for any vouchers from some of our providers for child care assistance. She doesn't qualify for food stamps. And so here we have this bright woman, educated woman, who's going to work every day to teach our kids, and now she is facing a situation that could put her homeless. She can't sell her house. If she sells it, she's not going to find an apartment that's less than $1,200 a month. So luckily, we had some resources and we were able to pay her bills for an entire month so she could save 2 paychecks and try to figure out how she can make it in 3 to 6 months to a year from now while she's dealing with the effects of what happened with her spouse. So this is happening every day. It's happening to people that we know. If 51% of our community right here in Alachua County is Alice, that means half of this room, a little over half. You may have employees, you may have family, you may have neighbors, your friends' parents, your child's parents, friends, all of these, different connections of people who are struggling every single day, and there's absolutely not enough being done to help support this group. We serve more than just Alachua County. These are all 6 of the counties that we serve as United Way of North Central Florida. And looking at some of them, it's a lot rougher in their communities. I just wanted to share that with you. So what can you do now that I've depressed you on Halloween? You got the spooky tale. So we all know Alice. We know the struggle is there. We anticipate that it's going to get worse. We're not going to pretend that it's not there. So what I would invite all of you to do is go to unitedforalice.org. That is the master website for all of this research that United Ways across the country have been doing, and take a look at it. Look at what's happening nationally. Look at what's happening here in North Central Florida and maybe even your home county here in Florida. Read the report. Take this data, use it, share it. If you're in a position where you're being able to ignite change somewhere, whether it's through public policy, advocacy, maybe it's within your own organization. If you are the boss, maybe there's some things that you can change. Maybe you can allow some staff to work from home so they don't have to pay for childcare. Or maybe if their kid is in middle school, maybe you can make it work where their child can come to work with them in the afternoon so they don't have to pay for that childcare. And like I said, just share the data. We also have on our website a simulator. So for those that maybe just don't understand, this is, for lack of a better term, a game that you can play where you're given a certain number of tokens and you have to make these decisions. Are you gonna pay for your rent? Are you gonna do a 2-bedroom? If you're a family of 4, are you gonna get the 3-bedroom or the 2-bedroom? Are you gonna get a car or are you gonna take a bus? It's going to ask you all of those questions and kind of put you in a scenario where you can understand some of the struggles that our neighbors are facing here. And then finally, I have to throw this up here because my director of advancement is in the room. We are having a Women United Holiday Luncheon where we have invited Jen Halmerd with Santa Fe College to come and speak. They are doing an amazing program over there called ACB Excel, where they are working with Alice families, where the parents can come in the evenings and take a certification program like phlebotomy, and they can get their certification so they can get a better, higher paying job. And at the same time, their kids are partnering with our Reading Pals program. We're helping them build literacy skills, and so they do not have to pay for childcare. Santa Fe also provides dinner for the night. So it's a great program. We would love for more people to come out and learn about it. And with that, I am done. Here's my phone, email if y'all have questions on our website. And then I guess I will take questions.
Michael Pellet here. There's 2 things that I'm thinking. One, that huge transportation element. We already have clogged streets, so efforts to improve our mass transit is well worth it to the rest of us if the routes are expanded and the times are shortened. Secondly, on transportation is I want an electric bicycle. And those darn things are as little as $500, but somebody in that situation needs something to help pay for that. The other point is the city recently changed the zoning to allow ADU units, and anybody who has a quarter acre or larger could put a little cottage and provide housing. They don't even have to try to make money on it. They just have a gesture to do that kind of thing. Thank you.
Hi, Wilbur Holloway. Just curious, since we have 50,000 students, how does that affect the data?
Yeah, so they're not counted in this data. We used, there's an entire chapter on the methodology if anybody wants to read it. But yeah, they used some census data, and with the census that was recently conducted, if you were a student up here in Alachua County, they were all instructed to use their home residence, so whatever county they came from. So I'm sure there's provisions in there for a margin of error. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but there is a whole methodology if you want to pull the report and look at that. Yep.
Amber, thank you so much for the great presentation. So one of my other hat is I teach in prison sometime. In fact, I'm going to Lowell to teach women in prison, and this is about the job skills when they get out. My experience also has showed me some people who've been in prison long, like let's say 50 years, some of my students, they are given $50 and say, find your way out after 50 years of not connecting to the world. So I don't know how much of the prison population, either people who went in and now they're coming out trying to find job and obviously couldn't afford it. Does the data show in terms of who goes to prison and what resources? And also, do you work with this population when they get out of prison?
So the data does not show specifically anything about individuals that are exiting the prison system and coming back into society. That is not a demographic that is being pulled right now. I can ask and see if that's something that they're looking at in the future. Every year that this report is done, we're expanding. So if you go to our website, they actually have dashboards now where you can select different criteria and pick your own home. Like you can make an age and a race and all of this to see what that would look like for that household. And you can look at wages and things like that. But I haven't seen anything on there right now in terms of you know, the prison system and the exit for that. We currently don't have a specific program targeting that group of individuals, although we do have resources for them. So we encourage everyone to call 211 so we can connect them, because each case is different. So theoretically, if someone is coming out of prison and they do not have anywhere to go, they would meet the definition of homelessness. And so they would enter into that coordinated entry system for the homeless continuum of care, and then, you know, be put on a list for housing later on. We also have some other agencies here in town, Community Spring, that has some programs, that reentry programs, and then the library actually has a reentry type of program where they're teaching some job skills and things at the library now. So we don't have a direct program, but we kind of support off at a distance, I would say. But thank you for that.
Hello, Amber.
Hello, Tom.
Tom Collette here. I was just going to ask you, how as a community, how as Rotarians, we can help. Is there a mechanism? Is there an Alice Fund? You mentioned you help fund one individual to help them get caught up. Where did that money come from United Way? And is there a mechanism in place or could be put in place that you can assist these folks better financially?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Dana's very excited for that, Tom. She loved your question. We do. We actually have an internal fund called the United We Care Fund. It was born out of the pandemic and was designed to provide assistance for individuals that needed it with rent, utilities, even prescription medication at sometimes, because if you're a senior and you've got to make a choice between whether you're going to buy groceries or pay for your medication, we want to help you pay for your medication. So we utilize that fund a lot. It has dwindled, so we will always take contribution. We also have another great donor that donates to us every year for what's called a last resort fund. It is a one-time assistance, and it is really more for a disaster like hurricanes and such that we can pull from. So it really just depends on the needs of the person that's calling, but we do our best to help them, and if we don't have funds available, we work with several agency partners to assist as well.
Amber, we have a question from Zoom. Jenny Van Hart asks you, the state of Florida is slowly increasing minimum wage, currently at $13, but will eventually reach $15. Clearly this is too late. Are there any policy actions in play to get this addressed?
Kind of, yes. We do have a consensus legislative agenda. So I sit on our United Way of Florida statewide public policy committee. And so we, for the last couple of years, have been focusing on ALICE. We don't have one specific to wage in general. We do have an initiative that we're pushing in regard to mental health. What we see here in our community is we have some amazing nonprofit organizations that employ mental health professionals, whether they're a licensed therapist or clinical social worker, and are unable to pay them a wage that makes them competitive in the market. And so what we're seeing is a lot of attrition. We've got mental health professionals that are leaving the profession to go into private practice because they make a lot more money, and we want to keep them in where we can pay them and have our agency partners can pay them. So we are working on that. But also in regard to the minimum wage thing, me personally, again, yes, I agree, Jenny, it is way too late for that. But also when you think of that minimum wage, you also have to think about the ripple effect. Yes, you can increase that minimum wage, but that employer is now going to have to increase the costs of their business to be able to afford to increase the minimum wage for their staff members. And so what we're going to see is just inflation continue to go up. And so there's still going to be that situation of how do we make ends meet? And so there's a lot of discussion that we're having with our legislators about affordable housing. It is a hot topic. It is something that a lot of people want to address, but my questions are, again, what does that look like? How do we make sure that we have that workforce housing that people can truly afford and not necessarily the luxury?
Deborah Newell. I am glad to see you addressing all of the issues that surround this. And one of the points that came to my mind as I was listening is that while more people giving to the pot of money that can then be distributed as Rotarians or individuals would be great, it seems to me that decreasing some of the expenses in our community and our county would also be a good way to help not just the people in the ALICE category, but the people who are living in poverty and even, students and so on. So have you given thought or been in conversations with people in groups that have some ideas on that aspect?
Not so much locally. I mean, we do work with the homeless continuum of care, and so there's always discussions of housing affordability and what does that look like. It's a very complex issue. It's very easy to kind of talk about it on surface level, but when you start peeling the layers back, there's so much that goes into that. The developers, how the land is sold, the provisions. So if you build an apartment complex and the developer says, well, I'm going to designate 30% to affordable housing, well, what does that mean? What's the timeline for that? If you can't fill them up right away, is the building going to lease it to someone who can pay full price? Like, there's a lot, and we've not really hit on a lot of those answers. I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of our agencies are still in that crisis response mode, right? Because so many nonprofits jumped in and were like, how do we help these people through the pandemic? And then the pandemic ends and you're like, okay, how do we kind of go back to normal a little bit? But it's really not normal because people are still struggling. So I don't think we've had those healthy conversations yet in our community. People are starting to, but again, you got to peel that layer back. It's going to take a lot of time, I think, to come up with some solutions.
Hello, Ernie Hull, Amber.
Hey.
Nice to be with you. We've already just said affordable housing is, one of the key things. And I know you see it, we see it on a daily basis. That's the number one need people call us about is needing help with rent, and it just continues going up and up. I think we all need to be advocates with our legislators. They've got to do something. I've been doing sheltering of homeless for 23 years prior to coming to Gainesville. And I will tell you that that's the number one thing that has always been talked about, but nothing's been done about, and the cost of housing has gone up. So we need to be advocates for our community to speak out that they need to do something to provide affordable housing from the city level, from the state level for those who need it, and that'll help address some of these problems. Not all of them, but it's a starting point. And I thank United Way for what they do for our community and for communities around the country. Always been a great partner, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Am I good? Oh, one more. Oh. Okay, one more.
One last question. How do we compare, you gave us the statistics for Alachua County and the surrounding area. How do we compare with other areas of the state? Like, for instance, the Jacksonville area.
The Jacksonville area, I'd have to go back and look at that data because, again, it fluctuates from county to county and their populations are different. So the state average for Alice is 32%. So that's, for us, we've got 51% if you add in the poverty piece. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so much.
Thanks again to Amber for her presentation today. And in honor of you speaking today, we will make a donation to the Bread of the Mighty in your name. So thank you so much. Okay, so where's my notes? So next week is our Veterans Day program. So Maggie comes and does that for us, and I'm sure she's got a fabulous presentation put together. So hopefully you guys will be able to be here for that next week. Our quote of the day: "To do more for the world than the world does for you, that is success," and that's Henry Ford. And then the last piece of business is our Rotary Reading Safari drawing. The winning number is 564. 564. We got a winner in the back. With that, meeting is adjourned.